Lawrence H. Rotharmel at the RSVP office 3727 Marconi Avenue, Sacramento, California, regarding the Veterans History Project. Mr. Rotharmel was born August the 14th, 1922. My name is Peter G. Grassi, and I'll be the interviewer. The person operating the camera is Dave Coy. Lawrence, could you state for the recording what was your branch of service that you served in?
Tank Battalion, 194th and Company C.
What was your rank?
Corporal.
And where did you serve?
In Fort Lewis, started out, and we were transferred into the regular service, and was shipped directly overseas to Luzon.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted in the National Guard.
And then you were...
Then we were inducted into the regular Army service.
And why did you join the National Guard?
The President Roosevelt guaranteed that no National Guard has ever been sent overseas. And I said, that was for me. I wanted to protect the home front.
Do you recall your first days in the service?
Not too well. It's just a lot of drills and just routine, what do you call them? Words fail me.
Okay. What did it feel like in those first days of your military experience?
Oh, pretty new, something very exciting.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Yes, we were all from the same town, and I'd say 90% of us went to high school one time or another. Mm-hmm. And we were quite familiar with one another.
Where were you living at the time?
On Salinas in Veranda Road.
Okay. And why did you pick the branch of service you joined?
As I say, Roosevelt said, no National Guard has ever been sent overseas. And that war was inevitable at that time.
How did you get through it?
Very good, and better than the average.
Mm-hmm. And which war did you serve in?
World War II.
And exactly where did you go?
The Philippines, Luzon, and we were the what do you call it? The rear echelon for a retreat as the Japanese landed, and we went. Our company was sent down south to. I really don't know the locations of them.
It wasn't Batangas, was it?
I really don't know.
Do you remember arriving and what it was like when you arrived to the Philippines?
Hot and humid. That's about it.
What was your job assignment when you were in the Philippines?
Assistant tank driver and gunner.
Did you see any combat?
Yes.
With the Japanese after they landed?
Yes. Before they landed, it was in the bombing of Clark Field, Fort Stotzenburg. I was wounded the first day on one of the casualties.
Were there many casualties in your unit?
No, very few during the war. Most of our outfit died during prison camp.
Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences in the Philippines.
That I'm just a loss.
Were you a prisoner of the war?
Yes.
How long were you a prisoner?
From April of 42 to 45 August.
Tell me about your experiences in captivity and when freed.
Well, we were in, when we first was captured, I was in a hospital area at the time. And Corregidor was still sending shells over. And the Japanese had a gun emplacement right next to the hospital area. And does that count as a Purple Heart when you get wounded by your own shells? Anyway, I got a big scar on my leg from one of those mortars. Hit a tree and bounced on the ground, hit on my leg, mostly a burn.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yes, most of the medals that I was awarded was this, for the guilty conscience of these people that send us over. And they send us over for, what do you call it, expendable on it. And we learned that in, war started in December, and we learned that in February. We got news that we were expendable.
How did you get those medals?
They just give it out.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
Oh, we were allowed certain messages during the Japanese imprisonment, and it was all cut and dried, what to say. And that was the only messages we got.
Did you receive any messages from
No.
home?
Not a one. The only thing we received is 3 Red Cross packages.
For the entire term that you were
On the
in
entire
prison?
term, yes.
What was the food like in the prison camp?
Rice and daikon. It's more like a reddish, and few fish and soups. They called it lugao for breakfast. That was a watered down rice on it. So we made up a song. It's a lugao of Luzon that made us what we are today.
Did you feel any pressure or stress while you were in the...
Constantly.
Did you do something special for good luck?
Cross my fingers.
The question here is, did the people entertain, how did the people entertain themselves?
We had skit shows. We had a couple of people that were very good at putting on song and dance. And we were allowed that once a week or once a month, whatever it was.
And these were people within your own unit?
Yes, within the prison camp.
What did you do on leave? I guess you didn't have any leave.
Not hardly.
Do you recall any particular humorous or unusual events?
None.
What were some of the pranks that you and others have pulled?
Very little.
Do you have any photographs?
None.
What did you think of the officers and fellow soldiers?
They were very compatible. We knew one another from same town, and we got along very well.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No.
Do you recall the day the service, your service ended?
March of '46.
When you were...
discharged from Dibble General Hospital.
How about the, when you were in the prison camp, the rescue?
Oh, woke up one morning, no guards in sight. And we were on our own. And the P-38 come over, and we had POWs on top of the building. And when they come over, they tilted their wings to acknowledge it, and they threw down some cartons of cigarettes on it. And then it was about 2 days later, we got the supplies from these troop carriers, not cargo carriers, I should say. And
Airplanes?
airplanes, and they dropped supplies on us. Big old 50-gallon drums come down. We were so happy that we tried to catch them 500-pound bags.
What did you do in the days and weeks after your release from prison camp?
I toured the countryside just walking, and I met a Japanese woman. When it was raining, she'd come out with an umbrella and offered to stay in the house until it finished raining. And that was very compatible. So it was a world of difference between the people and the soldier of the Japanese.
Was your education supported by the GI Bill?
Yes.
What?
I apprentice carpenter on it, and they supported that. It took me 2 years to get into that on it, because there was how many soldiers come back all at once looking for work, and there just wasn't any. And I made the mistake of telling them I lost half my eyesight, and I had difficulty seeing on it. And they soon turned me away. It took me about a year to learn that don't say that anymore.
Did you make any close friendships while you were in the service?
Just what we already had.
Do you continue any of those relationships?
Every year since the war ended, we had a club, a 40-47 club. We went over in 47 of us come back. And every year we had a reunion at Christmas time. And we were quite close together.
For how long has that been, since the
Well, last year was the first year we missed of having a Christmas party. We're just getting too old to get together anymore. And we're we moved from different places on it to make it more convenient for the elderly.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yes, the VFW and the DAV, and that's about it.
What did you go on to do as a career after the war?
A carpenter, and I was tired of working for other people, so I took an exam for contractor. And come to find out, I was working 40 hours a week, making fairly good wages. And then contracting, I was working 100 hours a week with about half the pay of the hourly wage on it. So I hired out as a carpenter and contracting. When the contracting was slow, I hired out as a carpenter.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war and about the military in general?
I was against the war and the military to start with, so it didn't change my mind a bit. There's got to be an easier way.
In a veterans organization, what kinds of activity does your post or association have?
I don't understand that one.
Well, Do they do any charitable work? That type?
I didn't know, but they did, yes,
Okay.
through the organization.
You said you attended reunions. The reunions were only of your small group,
Yes.
not of the VFW or the
No.
veterans.
Just of the people from the 194th C Company.
Okay.
Yes.
How did your service and experience affect your life?
I have nothing to compare it with. So I don't know how I'd be if I hadn't have been in service. So I don't think I could compare anything.
Is there anything you would like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
No,
Would you feel comfortable talking a little bit about what life was like in a Japanese prison camp and what kind of treatment you received?
well, when they said, go, you went. And if you didn't, I got a bunch of scars on my head. They had those wooden swords and they'd tap you on the head. More than once I come out with a bleeding skull. And as long as you obeyed them and kept in line, you was pretty good.
What about medical treatment?
Very little. We had our own doctor, and that was it. In Cabana, Tawan, we had no doctors. We had intern, I guess he'd call him.
Were there medical supplies available to you?
They didn't. They come in jars unmarked, and they didn't know what they were. So that he took a book and read it, the book, and tasted the medicine in order to determine what it was. And one time I hit a honcho, and usually in Japanese that's a death penalty on it if you hit a superior on it. But I had a guard to take me in after he took a mess kit, was beating on me. And I said, no, honcho, no. Just then the guard come in when I was saying that. And he verified that one and went back to the camp on it. And that saved my butt. So I had a punishment of holding 2 logs out like that for an hour and a half. And that was very easily.
Do you feel that the Japanese soldier was sadistic and his military leaders encouraged them to do this to the prisoners?
They did that to themselves on that. When they got out of line, they were physically punished on that. From the, you never, a private never interfered with a corporal and sew up the line on it. If they did, that was corporal punishment or death. They did that to that was in the military only.
How many men did you lose during captivity?
Pardon me?
How many of your troops did you lose to disease and
We
various
were
things?
about 120 some strong going in, and 47 of us come back. So we were
So over two-thirds died.
one of the better ratio of people that survived. It's our company.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have. Tom, do you want to help your dad with those displays?
Do you need my picture, or do you just need me to?
No, if you want to bring them over
Yeah,
here,
take
sit
them
in
over
that
there
chair.
Maybe hold the pictures in front of you and I'll get a close-up of those so we can.
Whatever you want to show.
Okay.
This is Tom, this is Lawrence's son.
This is the display that we put together for Dad a number of years ago, the rest of the kids and myself. And it displays, I'm not sure how well you can see it, we just took a quick photograph of it.
I can see it pretty
Yeah.
good.
To give you an idea of some of the stuff that's in
Stay
it.
still because the camera's not going to follow you.
Okay, I'm gonna try and hold still as I can. And
He's
it's got
got it.
the American Defense with 1 bronze star, a Distinguished Unit Badge with 2 oak clusters, 2 Purple Hearts, a World War II Victory Medal, the American Theater Ribbon, Good Conduct Medal, the Philippine Defense and Philippine Liberation Medal with 1 Bronze Star and with 1 Battle Star, the Asiatic Pacific Theater Ribbon with 1 Bronze Battle Star, the Silver Star with 1 cluster, and I forgot the other piece of paper, and 2 other ribbons. That's what's listed on there. Then there have been a couple since then that have been handed out. Majority of these, since Dad didn't get out of the service till later, majority of these came many years from, I would guess, from mid-70s, early 70s through the mid-90s. Became very politically correct, recognized all the folks.
Very good. Thank you. What else do you have to display?
This was just his separation papers and whatnot. Some of the things you didn't cover. Dad went into the National Guard in January of '39, and I believe it was April of '41 they were inducted into service. He went over to the Philippines. One thing he neglected to, you might want to have on there, he was liberated on his 22nd birthday, on his birthday.
Wow.
So you wake up and find out you're semi-free, and it took a while, he said, but they were pretty excited trying to catch the canisters coming down.
Is there anything else you have that you want to display?
No, I'm just very proud. That's just the other side of the picture of this, of the honorable discharge.
Okay.
It doesn't show very well. I tried to make a copy of it from the original because they will not replace it, it says on it, so I didn't want to take a chance of colorizing it.
Very good. Is that it?
Yeah,
Well, I want to thank you both for coming in and for the interview.
my pleasure.
And like I mentioned earlier, you will get a copy, a copy of the film, and for your TV,
My sisters would love to see this, and my mom.
good. And then a copy of this will be sent to Washington, to the Library of Congress, for the Veterans History Project. And I thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Larry, we finished our conversation, and then I happened to think of what happened after you were captured. Could you start, say, from your hospital experience on about the capture and the march?
Yeah, well, they got together with people that were able to walk. And there was a lot of people in the hospital were ambulatory. And they had trucks for them eventually. But before that, we started in groups of 10 to 20 people. And they had, these guards that we had were not regular army. They were all young children practically. And they were quite more lenient than the regular army was. And we didn't have quite the punishment that they did at the first of the march. And we had, a distance of 5-10 kilometers. And then we had rest areas. And then we'd go another 5 or 10 miles and we'd have a fenced area that we stayed overnight in. And we had a spigot of water that we all had to drink out of. And it was like that for 3 days, one after the other. And then pretty soon they had trucks available, and they took us to Dilibid Prison, which is in Manila. It was an old type castle type dungeon. And we stayed there for approximately 3 or 4 weeks. And then they had trucks available, and they took us to Cabanatuan. And this was by train at first. And then from Cabanatuan to the prison camp was approximately 5-10 miles, kilometers at there. And we hiked the rest of the way in, and nothing out of the ordinary. And we were interned in barbed wire, and with these high towered lookouts for the Japanese to take care. Then we had an order of, we were in groups of 10. They put, so if one person escaped, the other would have shot on it. And that happened once on it. And so nobody else tried to escape. So if and another rule was if all 10 of them escaped, why they would shoot the whole barracks. There was about 40, 50 of us in one barracks. And that's about it, was it for the duration. Had malaria and we had to ride it out with no medical help on it. What little they had, they doled out sparingly. And that was about it.
Were the people of the Philippines any help to you people?
They tried, but it was very dangerous for them too. They could be bayoneted or shot or clubbed just for helping us.
Mm-hmm.
So they would stay in the bushes and throw banana leaves filled with rice. And if we were caught picking them up, we'd get hit. They were very accommodating.
Is that all you have to add to the? Well, I thank you again, Larry, for your interview with us. It was very interesting. And you're the first of the group that we've interviewed that has been a prisoner of war. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.